Hello, welcome back to Module 10, Managing Large Classes. In this video, I'll talk to you about the reason for students' lack of involvement and how to involve students in large classes. Let's start with the reason why students don't involve much in large classes. You see, in any class, whether large or small, it is a challenge for teachers to ensure that all students are actively engaged in the learning process. In fact, there are various reasons why students lack involvement. First, this depends on classroom dynamics. As Alright, 1996 points out, some students arrive in class with an agenda other than learning. They will position themselves at the back, where they think they will not be seen. Here, they may be passive, perhaps reading a book or doing homework for another class. Or they may be disruptive, talking to other neighbors and distracting other students. Another reason may come from students' anxiety. Some students may be passive because they are anxious. This is a particular problem in language classes, where students may feel uneasy speaking and perhaps making mistakes in front of their peers. Shy students, especially females in traditional society, are often afraid to take part in whole class interaction. Unclear purpose or task can also be another factor leading to students' lack of involvement. A number of students don't involve in class activities because they are unclear about the purpose or the objective of the class, or because they have not heard the teacher instruction clearly. Finally, lack of students' involvement can also result from unequal attention from the teacher. In reality, there are teachers who just focus on only a few students. Or perhaps the teacher's style is to teach mainly from the front of the class and to interact only with the most interested students, who tend to sit in the front row. Although all these reasons for lack of involvement occur in small class as well as large, they are obviously more acute in large classes due not only to the number of students but also to the diverse backgrounds. As the number of students increases in large classes, so does the diversity of learning styles, level, and needs or expectation of students. The challenge for teachers of large classes is to find ways to have each individual student maximize their learning. So, what are the strategies for increasing student involvement? First, teachers should enlarge the action zone to increase student involvement. In large classes, a number of students seems to choose different positions to manage learning and other social and pragmatic demands in their class. It is easily noticed that in whole class teaching, the front of the class, where the two major resources, the teacher and the blackboard, are located, becomes the action zone for the students. In this zone, the teacher can see the student clearly and therefore tends to interact frequently with selected students in the front seats. As a result, some students, usually those who are highly motivated, prefer to sit in the front of the class. Some students, on the other hand, prefer to sit in the back row to be away from the direct gaze or monitoring of the teacher. So, in classes where the teacher teaches mainly from the front of the class, students in the middle and back rows are in danger of being out of the action zone. This may be because they cannot hear the teacher well or see the blackboard clearly. It may also be that, being out of the action zone, they may simply be more easily distracted. How can teacher enlarge the action zone? The following strategies may help. First, you should change your teaching style to focus less on lecturing and more on students doing activity in pairs or in small groups. As a result, you widen the activity zone to include the whole classroom. Use a variety of activities that will interest and involve all the students. Second, get students to change their seats. For example, every Monday, have the front row move to the back and all other rows move forwards, so that during the term, all students have a chance to sit in action zone. Third, if there is space, you should move around the class and conduct whole class activities from different places, on the front, back, or middle of the class. Next, creating a positive classroom culture also helps to increase student involvement. Obviously, the type of interaction we observe in both large and small classes depends on the classroom culture, on the teachers, and the students' view of learning. The classroom culture determines the role and rules of engagement for the member. In the traditional classroom culture, according to Venture 1998, a distinction is made between the teacher who produces or provides knowledge and the student who consume it. Interaction in the classroom is dominated by the teacher and a few high performers because the classroom culture dictates that those who know should speak and others receive. Thus, this creates an atmosphere in which many students feel too afraid to speak. Once students feel excluded in this way, they are more likely to be distracted and turn to agendas other than learning. Learning to speak a new language is by itself a cause of anxiety for many students, and if the language learning takes place in large classes, the anxiety is likely to be greater. Shy students may simply be too afraid to speak in front of the whole class or are afraid of losing face if they make mistakes in front of other classmates. The following strategies may have increased student involvement by creating a positive classroom culture. First, at the start of the course, establish with your students a set of classroom rules of participation that emphasize respect for other students and value making mistakes as part of the learning process. Second, at the start of the course, use icebreakers activity that help students get to know one another. Third, use small pair and group work to allow students to practice the language in less threatening environment. Pair and group work also allows more students to speak than would be possible in a whole class situation. Begin with pairs or groups in which students know each other well. As they develop confidence, Try mixing pairs and groups and asking students to speak in front of the whole class. In addition, teachers can increase student involvement by improving question-answer techniques. Asking and answering questions is vital to the learning process. Asking students allows students to clarify points of uncertainty and also indicates the extent to which they are able to use new knowledge and ideas. Responding to questions requires students to recall a new fact or concept and to apply their knowledge to a new situation. As they respond to questions, students get feedback on their own learning, and the teacher gets feedback on students' understanding. For students to gain maximally from question-answer session, it is important that all students are involved. Clearly, in a large class, not all students will be able to respond to the question, but the techniques can be used to ensure that all students think about the question before the teacher selects the student who will respond. The following strategies may have increased student involvement in question-answer sessions. First, begin with some straightforward questions that all students should be able to answer. Follow with more complex questions that require inferring, evaluating, or summarizing, but allow more thinking time and perhaps time for students to exchange ideas with a partner. Second, be sure everyone has heard and understood your questions. You may want to reinforce the questions posed orally by writing it on the board. Third, when you ask a question that requires thinking, give time for all students to work out the answer. For more complex questions, encourage students to write out the answer before they raise their hands. And finally, don't forget to encourage students to back up their responses with evidence. Moreover, teachers can also help students to involve more by giving them a greater role in decision making. Traditionally, it is the teacher who dominates decision making about teaching and about assessment. This monopoly of the teacher arises from the behaviorist view that learning happens due to the teacher teaching behavior. However, if learning is to be effective, students must understand what is happening in the classroom, why it is happening, and how that leads to their learning. In other words, they must understand the purpose of what they are learning, and they must understand the learning objectives. They can be involved in setting the criteria that will be used in assessment. As Green and Littlejohn 2002 point out, involving students in making decisions about teaching and learning can increase students' self-directedness and motivation to learn the target language. The following strategies may increase student involvement by giving them a greater role in decision making. For one thing, ensure all students understand the purpose of the class and the learning objective they are aiming to achieve. Learning objectives should be available for reference at all times. Also, students themselves can set their specific learning objective, the resources they need, and action they will take to achieve their objectives. Another strategy is sharing assessment criteria with students, or even better, involve students in setting the assessment criteria. Last but not least, use pair work and group work to increase student involvement. In large classes, the use of pair and groups work can greatly increase the involvement of individual students. In addition, in large classes, students can learn collaboratively in groups, giving each other peer feedback and providing peer coaching. When students work in mixed ability groups, it tests the competence of stronger learners while building up confidence in slower learners. Group work also encourages learners to take charge of their own learning. And group work also gives the teacher more time to give individual feedback if she moves between the groups as they are working. To summarize, in Module 10, we have discussed advantages and challenges of teaching and managing large classes, as well as general principles of large class teaching. We've also talked about causes of conflict in large classes and strategies for conflict avoidance in large classes. And finally, we've also referred to the reason for students' lack of involvement and how to involve students in large classes. I hope you will be able to manage large classes properly if you have chance to work with them. Now, you can go to Learn section, select Discuss, and participate in the online discussion forum. Thanks for watching.